Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a process video for you today. I'm going to be covering this pocket journaling Bible using this kit from Bythewell4God. This kit has everything that you need to cover a little pocket Bible. It includes the Bible. You can see mine is in a teal color, but they can come in all kinds of different colors. You get a couple different fabrics that are large enough to cover your entire Bible, and then some other fabrics, just some extra pieces for just extra decoration if you want. You also get a set of journaling cards here in 4 different colorways, and then I love this ledger one, and then you get these 4 sheets of stickers too that are also sized kind of for the Bible. You get your end papers and some directions, so the only thing you really need is some glue. I recommend, Bythewell4God recommends using the Cocoina glue stick for this. They sell that in their shop as well. It just works really well for this project. So I think I'm going to use this fabric. I love this fabric that has all of the team's handwriting kind of in the background layer. It was just so special, and so I wanted to use this. And then I think at this moment in time I'm actually going to use this red piece. It's a long skinny piece, and I'm going to use this as my closure. So you'll see me, I'm just going to trim off this little white part here, and then I'm going to make a little snip with my scissors, and I'm going to tear this down the middle, sort of rip it, and so that I have that kind of frayed edge there. And at this moment in time, I think I'm going to use this for my closure. I end up changing my mind a little bit, but I just liked how that red kind of went with the red in the background and everything. It just kind of pops off with those neutrals. So first thing, I have some little clips here. I got these at my local grocery store. Any little binder clips, even paper clips would work if that's what you have. The first thing I like to do before I glue anything down is I want to kind of dry fit this. So because I want to make sure that I am going to give myself ample room to be able to wrap this. So I always kind of fit it where it needs to go, and then I just put a clip there just to kind of save the place, make sure that I have it kind of lined up good on the piece of fabric. You can see I'm just kind of tweaking it here a little bit. That way there's no surprises when I go to actually wrap it. So just kind of holding that in place with these little clips for now, and then I will go ahead and start gluing everything down. So I'm going to put a couple more clips here on this front side. I like to start on the back side, and so I'm just going to add this glue all over this back cover. Again, this is the Cocoina glue stick. You can use a liquid adhesive. If you do that, I would recommend you put it on in a really, really thin coat. Maybe even consider applying it with a paintbrush, because otherwise it can leak through the fabric and make the fabric a little bit weird. So I have done the back, and now I'm holding that in place again with some clips, and now I'm just kind of opening this up, and I'm going to now do this spine section, and then I'm going to kind of flip that around and just kind of rub that down, make sure it's nice and adhered there, and then I'm going to open it back up to this is now the front cover. I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to cover the entire thing from edge to edge in glue, and then put my little clips here back in place just to hold everything while this dries. Cocoina glue, you have a little bit of time to kind of work it, but it does dry pretty quick, which is a benefit. And so the next thing I'm doing here is cutting my little spaces for the text block. So I'm just cutting out these little V sections at the beginning and at the end of the text block on both the top and the bottom of the Bible. That way I can just wrap that, and those little pieces will go down in the spine, and instead of bunching up kind of around the text, if that makes sense. So I've done multiple ones of these on my channel. I have other videos if you've seen those before, if you want to go back and check some other ones. I'm doing this, I'm kind of decorating this one pretty simply, just because I really want that fabric to kind of stand out. So I am going to wrap another color around the spine just for a little bit of interest, but I'm going to do just a little tiny bit. Of course, you could add multiple layers of fabric if you wanted. You could do all kinds of things. The sky is really the limit. I'm just kind of keeping this project pretty simple, because I have so many other kind of projects that I'm working on, and I really just want to keep the focus of this pattern paper, or the pattern paper, the fabric that has our handwriting on it. I just really want that to kind of remain as the focus. So you can see here, I'm just kind of lining this fabric up, just making it straight. And I'm just going through the same process, just adding that cocoina glue right over the top of this fabric, around the spine, and then onto the back. I'm just trying to make sure that I have about the same amount on the front and the back of this kind of accent, this blue color. And then I'm just going to make sure that's stuck down. And now I'm going to do work on the covers. So I want to trim some of this excess off. I'm just kind of cutting a triangle. That's just going to help me wrap this around the corners a little bit better. So I'm adding glue to this long side first. It doesn't really matter which way you do this, but if you're going to do the top, then you want to do the top and then the bottom and then the side. You always kind of want to work in opposites. So I'm doing the long side, and here now I'm going to do the top, and you can see I'm kind of folding this over. And then I'm just going to kind of pleat this section around the corner. This is a rounded corner, so you can't really get that really good like mitered corner. So you just have to add a little bit of extra glue, but you can kind of pleat it as you go around. And then I'm just going to put a clip there specifically because there's so much glue and so much fabric that I just want to make sure that that adheres down really well. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom section. And I wish I would have zoomed in a little bit so you could see, but I'm just kind of pulling this up. You can see how it forms that section at the corner, and I'm just kind of folding once and then putting a little bit more glue, and then I'm going to fold it over again. It just kind of creates a pleat there, and that will wrap it around those rounded corners really nicely. And then I'm adding some glue to that blue piece as well, and then I'll just put a clip there to hold everything. I'm just making sure that clip is where it needs to be up at the top, and clipping these strings from my fabric, and then I will go ahead and do the same thing to the other cover. So I left this part in so you could kind of see it again. I'm going to trim down the corners, and you don't want to do too close on here. When you're doing like a mitered corner or square corner, you can cut a little bit closer, but on this you really want to have that fabric so you can pleat it around the corner. So again, I'm doing the long side first. Other times I do the short side. There's no really rhyme or reason why I did that this time, but you can kind of see here, I did one fold and then added glue, and then you can kind of see I'm going to add another little fold there and then flip the whole piece over. And that is just going to really help that to stay really well. Added some more glue to hold down that blue fabric, and then another clip. And then again, I'm just going to do the same exact thing down here on the bottom. I will warn you that this part, because you're adding so much glue and your fingers are kind of in it, your fingers do get a little bit sticky. I had to take a second and wash my hands while I was doing this because I got a little bit of glue everywhere. So again, just gonna hold this down with some clips, adding glue to all the little sections. And again, you could use paper clips or binder clips, or just whatever you have on hand. I've had these around for years, and they work really great. I think I saw Taryn say she found some at Dollar Tree just recently, so check there too. So now I want to tuck in the little spine sections. So the first thing I'm doing, I got my little paper clip. I'm just going to use one of the little sections of a paper clip, and I added glue to both pieces of fabric, and then I'm pulling back the covers so that it opens up the spine, and then I'm just going to tuck that fabric down in there with my paper clip, and just make sure that that's good, and then I will do the bottom section as well. And now I want to add this book cover, and I want to put some paper in the background, and so I'm just kind of trimming it. This is a scrap from my journal that I had done, and so I'm just going to cut a little piece. And this is a We Are Memory Keepers punch board. You can get all kinds of things that have these little punches that will punch out holes to do like journals or like spiral edges and different things. But I also have a set of alphas, so I'm actually going to use my alphabet to punch out the word Bible. And I had off camera, I had kind of figured out where I needed to place these letters to kind of get them to fit inside that little book plate. So you can put all the letters in like right next to each other. It just kind of spaces the word out a little bit, and that was just more space than I really had. So I just figured out where I needed these to be, and then and so I'm just doing one letter at a time, and it's got little numbers across the bottom, so you can kind of keep track of where you need to have, where you need to have them. You can kind of see I tried different arrangements here, just making sure that I had them, as close together as possible so that they would fit inside my little book plate here. So that's what it's going to look like in there. And I'm going to take some brads that coordinate with this book plate, and I'm going to just, for right now, I'm going to put one through there to kind of hold this paper in place. Because there wasn't a whole lot of space at the top of the paper, I needed to make sure it was just, I was trying to get it centered, if that makes sense. So I didn't have a ton of extra wiggle room here, so I'm just using this brad. I was just opening it up just to kind of hold this paper in place where I need it to be. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to take some scissors and trim the excess off of here of what I don't need. That way, and then I just added my other brad on the other side. You can see I trimmed all that down. And now I'm going to use some adhesive. This is Helmar 450 Quick Dry. You could use Fabri-Tac or whatever. I just prefer this one. It dries pretty quickly. And I'm just adding adding glue to the little paper piece, and I'm adding it to the metal book plate. I'm actually putting some over the brads that are coming through there just so that they will stay in place. And then I'm going to put this on my Bible cover. I'm just going to hold it here for a second. Like I said, it dries pretty quickly. So I'm just going to put some pressure here, make sure that it's all dry. And then I had a little bit I needed to trim of that paper. And then off camera, I actually, after I thought I was done with this, I went in and I added some glossy accents into the inside of that. So I will try to at least have a picture on my Instagram so you can see what that looks like when it's all dry. But now I need to add my end papers. And so Bythewell4God includes these in there, and they're perfectly cut, corners around it and everything you need to cover the insides. And this is some like craft, and it's pretty thick paper, so you just kind of want to make sure that you're getting a good fold. I'm using a bone folder here to fold this in half, and then I'm going to do that to the other side as well. And at this point, I still think I'm going to use that red fabric here for my closure on here. And so I'm just folding both of these pages, but I need to add my little ribbons essentially that I made. And so I'm trying to decide which way I wanted the frayed edge to go. And so I'm going to glue this kind of under the under paper. So I'm just kind of holding this here for a second, but I'm trying to decide about where I want this. And so I'm going to take this big long piece and I'm going to cut it in half so that I can have one piece on the front cover and then one piece on the back cover. And I'm going to just use that same Cocoa glue stick and adhere this roughly in the middle. I didn't measure it or anything, but I just kind of eyeballed it. And here is where I start gluing it down wrong. And so I had to flip it over because I wanted the right side to be out. So I'm kind of lining all of that up, making sure it's in the middle. Added a little bit more glue right there to the edge, and then I'm going to put a clip there just to hold that for a minute. And then I'm going to do the back side too, because I want to make sure that I'm lining these up as much as possible. You could definitely measure if, whatever. But I'm just eyeballing this a little bit here. And then, so I'm going to have one piece on the front and then one piece on the back side. And then I'll be able to tie those to create my closure. And so I'm going to add the end papers here, and that's going to cover up all of these messy edges and everything. So I like to use this, I like to do the end paper first, like the actual paper, so that I can line it up. I want to make sure that it meets really neatly in the corner. I kind of tuck it down into the gutter, and then I will add glue to this other side and then adhere this to the actual cover. This just makes sure that I can get it really lined up so that the blue paper from the Bible end paper isn't sticking out, if that makes sense. So just make sure that everything is covered really well. And then I want to make sure and replace those clips on those corners, because again, that's just the thickest part with all of the layers of fabric and everything. So I got a little glue on my paper here. I just took a little wipe and wipe that off, and it was fine. So and then I'm going to do the same exact thing to the back side. And it was at this moment that I was like, okay, I'm going to tie this and see how this is going to look. And I had a little extra string here that I needed to trim off. And then I realized, I've done several of these books, and they can get pretty chunky. And so when I tied this, I realized that if it gets too chunky, I really am not going to be able to tie a bow on the end. And I just didn't like how it looked at all. So fortunately, everything was still wet enough that I was able to kind of just slide those pieces right out. And it was totally fine. I will save that fabric, and I can still use it for something, but I just decided I will do something else for the closure altogether. So essentially, this is what the Bible is going to look like. I did, like I said, add some glossy accents to the book plate, but that's it. So if you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye-bye.